A young Congolese woman stood with her basket of fish in a busy market, trying to sell them. She watched as a group of European oil workers engaged in conversation and laughter. Their life seemed so carefree and full of possibilities. More than everything, she wanted to be a part of that universe, but she had no idea that her wish would lead her on a perilous, transformative trip that would challenge her life and jeopardize all she valued. The city of Pointe-Noire is located in west of Africa, on the Republic of Congo's Atlantic coast. Prior to the 1970s, Pointe-Noire proceeded slowly. Fishing, small-scale trade, and the railway that linked it to distant regions constituted its tiny economy. There was a peaceful satisfaction among its residents, and life was predictable. However, a secret that would permanently destroy the peace rested beneath the waves, ready to be revealed. A frenzy was sparked by the finding of oil in the 1970s. Seeking the lure of riches and opportunity, foreigners flocked to Pointe-Noire from all over the world. The quiet village burst into a thriving metropolis. The streets were alive with strange tongues, and tall skyscrapers were grabbing at the sky. For many, the gap between the affluent and the poor became wider, but for others, the boom in riches offered optimism. Once prosperous, the lowly fishermen and traders were forced to adapt to a new world where surviving frequently required establishing relationships with wealthy foreigners, particularly the white European oil workers who appeared to have the answers to a better life.
Ah, yes. I remember those days well before the oil. Pointe-Noire was different. It was quieter, simpler. We fished, we traded, we lived off the sea and the land. Everyone knew everyone. It felt peaceful. But when they found oil, everything changed. The town, no, the whole way of life, shifted. Suddenly, we had all these people coming from other countries, bringing their big machines and strange languages. At first, it was exciting. There were new jobs, new businesses, and the city started to grow. But not all of us benefited, you see.
Some of us felt left behind. The oil money didn't reach everyone. The foreigners had their own communities, their own way of doing things, and the gap between rich and poor, it got bigger. Some of us tried to connect, to find our way in this new world, but it wasn't easy.
The Ngila family lived in one of Pointe-Noire's poorest districts, tied together by love and the need for affordability. The Ngilas accepted their humble surroundings, taking comfort in the basic rhythm of life. Grace Ngila, 20, was the center of their family, a young lady with strong desire and a goal she followed fiercely, believing it might transform her future.
Grace was always at the market, selling fish with that determined look on her face. I used to tease her, you know. I'd say, "Grace, you're 20 now. When are you going to find yourself a man?" And she'd laugh and reply, "I don't want just any man, I want a white man. And I know exactly how to make it happen."
The date was June 23rd, 2010. Grace was walking home from visiting a friend, the warm night air filled with the distant hum of the city. She didn't notice the man until he stepped in front of her, his presence unsettling, yet oddly confident.
"Excuse me, young lady, but you look absolutely stunning tonight."
Thank you.
"I was sitting over there in that bar with my boss, and he couldn't help but notice you. He thinks you're beautiful and would really like to get to know you."
Your boss? Where is he?
inside the bar.
Then why hasn't he come out to talk to me himself?
You know how white people can be. They're a little shy. But look, I've got his picture on my phone. See? Handsome, right?
Not bad. Can I go talk to him?
Not right now. He just wants your number. He's the kind of guy who feels more comfortable reaching out privately. Trust me, he'll text you later.
What's his name?
Murdoch. He's from Scotland. So here's the plan. You give me your number and he'll contact you himself. You'll see. He's a great guy.
In that moment, Grace's heart swelled with hope. This felt like the beginning of the dream she'd spoken about for years. Without hesitation, she handed her number to the stranger, convinced she was one step closer to the life she'd always imagined.
I'll never forget that night. Grace came home glowing, practically bursting with excitement. She ran up to me, smiling wide, and said, "Mom, I met a white guy. I gave him my number. He's going to text me, and he's so handsome." I asked her where she met him, what he'd said, and she told me, "Downtown, but don't worry, he'll text me soon, and we'll get to know each other."
Little did Grace know the path she'd just stepped onto was far from the fairy tale she had dreamed. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous and far more devastating than she could have imagined. The next day, Grace's phone buzzed with a message. Attached was the same picture the stranger had shown her, a white European man, his face sharp and confident, likely in his late 30s. The text read, "Hey, sweetie, I promised I'd text you, and I always keep my promises. Let's meet this Friday night at 7 p.m. near the train station, Gare de Pointe-Noire. I live nearby and will be there to pick you up." Grace became excited after receiving the message. However, there was an oddity about it. After dusk, the train station was a spooky, quiet place that was avoided by the majority of the population. Nevertheless, Grace dismissed the uncertainty. She was too preoccupied with the prospect of her goal eventually materializing.
She showed me the text. Something about it didn't feel right. I wasn't comfortable, but I didn't stop her. Maybe it's my fault as her parent. I should have insisted that her brother go with her. Instead, I handed her my expensive purse, gave her some pocket money, and wished her good luck.
That Friday night, Grace left for the train station with hope in her heart and her mind set on what felt like destiny. But as the hours dragged on, she didn't return home. Her family's uneasiness transformed into fear by the following morning. They waited, looking at the door and hoping she would open it. However, Grace never returned. When another day passed without a word, the reality sank in like a heavy stone. Something terrible had happened to their daughter. The Ngila family had nowhere else to turn. They reached out to the police as their last hope. Leading the investigation was Detective Jean-Marie Bernard, a seasoned officer well-versed in cases like this.
As soon as the case reached my desk, I was able to identify the pattern. In Pointe-Noire, there is a group of crooks who prey on young women by taking advantage of their belief that dating a foreigner will improve their quality of life. To trick these ladies and trick them into falling into traps, they utilize pictures of white guys. Numerous victims are robbed, others endure horrendous mistreatment, and some disappear completely.
Determined to find answers, Detective Bernard promised the Ngila family he would uncover what happened to their daughter, Grace. He started by interviewing her mother to pinpoint where Grace was last seen. Taking a bold step, he deployed 3 undercover women to walk the same area, hoping the criminals would reveal themselves. But the days passed without a breakthrough. A week later, there was a desperate call. A young woman was found, barely alive, at a construction site close to the train station.
When we got the call that a girl matching Grace's description was found in critical condition, I prayed, "Please, let it be my daughter. Let me see her again."
Rushing to the hospital where the police had taken her, Grace's parents anxiously awaited confirmation. It was indeed their daughter. Grace lay unconscious, showing signs of a recent surgical operation. X-rays revealed that one of her kidneys had been removed.
We performed lab tests and a full examination. Grace had been sexually assaulted and her left kidney was surgically removed, likely by someone with medical expertise. This suggests involvement in an organized human organ trafficking ring.
The doctor said she can live with one kidney. It's devastating, but having her alive is a priceless gift. We thank God she's back with us. Now, we hope the police will track down those responsible and bring them to justice.
Grace was confused when she initially opened her eyes at the hospital. She was unable to remember what had happened or how she had arrived. She was terrified of the unknown and her memory was a blank slate. Days went by, and shards of that fatal night started to resurface in her mind, each one more terrifying than the last.
The night I was supposed to meet the white guy, I remember getting into a taxi. The driver dropped me right in front of the train station and even asked why I was there, saying there were no trains running at that hour. I told him I was meeting someone. I called the man, the white guy, but he didn't answer. Then I saw him, the guy who had taken my phone number. He recognized me immediately, and I recognized him too. He smiled and said Murdoch was waiting for me a few blocks away, at his house. He offered to take me there. Looking back now, everything about it was wrong, suspicious, but I didn't scream. I didn't run. I don't know why. I just didn't. Maybe I was too eager, too naive. I felt it in my gut. Something wasn't right. Why didn't the taxi drop me at the house directly? Why did we have to walk? But I ignored the warning signs. He led me down a quiet street and into a construction site, calling it a shortcut. That's when it happened. He pulled out a scarf, pressed it hard against my nose, and grabbed me violently. I struggled, but everything went dark. And when I woke up, I was here, in the hospital.
As she relived the nightmare, Grace's voice faltered, her words describing a betrayal of trust and a disregard for risk. She will always be haunted by those last moments of lucidity before everything went dark. Grace's story, one of mistaken trust and dreams that can become nightmares, became a terrifying reminder to her community. Following weeks of mental and physical recuperation, Grace came out of her experience a different person. Someone who had lived by staring into the depths of human depravity had taken the place of the bright-eyed young woman with lofty aspirations. While the police inquiry revealed a sobering truth, her family came together to support and love her. The man she had trusted was not employed by an oil company in Europe. Rather, he was a member of a broader, evil network that preyed on young women who were easily manipulated. Grace's escape was an uncommon occurrence, the result of sheer luck and tenacity. Despite being wounded, Grace decided not to let her experience define who she was. Rather, she turned to become a spokesperson for others. She started to speak out in her community, cautioning young ladies about the perils of unquestioning trust and the deceptive claims made by strangers. Grace didn't give up on her dream of a better life. However, she reinterpreted it. Her desire was now based on her own development and independence, rather than someone else's world. She went back to school with the intention of building a future that she could govern and in which no one else could define her value.
I made a mistake. I ignored the signs, and it nearly cost me everything. But I survived, and that means I have a second chance. To dream smarter, to live stronger, and to make sure no one else falls into the same trap I did.
Grace's journey, once driven by the fantasy of escape, transformed into a story of courage and self-reliance. Her scars became symbols of survival, and her voice became a beacon of hope for others. In the end, Grace's strength turned her darkest chapter into the foundation for a brighter, more determined future.